In section 1, we will be covering the THPS scoring system. If you haven't already, I would recommend that you watch the previous video in this series. Let's get started. Firstly, we need to cover the trick types. The core trick types that we will concentrate on this guide are specials such as the 900, flip tricks such as the kickflip, grab tricks such as the indie, grinds such as 50-50, and finally lip tricks such as the nose stool. In order to start scoring big, it is important to know where and when to use each of these trick types. We will go into this in more detail later on in this guide. There are also lots of other miscellaneous tricks, including, manual, nose manual, revert, acid drop and spine, wall plant, wall ride, wooly and wooly plant, and finally no comply and boneless. Next, we're going to cover base and multiplier. As you perform tricks, the game prints your combo to the screen. Your combo is made up of two components, base and multiplier. When you land a combo, your score is calculated as base multiplied by multiplier. In this example, the player has 285,000 base and 200 multiplier. 285,000 multiplied by 200 is equal to a combo score of 57 million. Each trick performed, add 1s to the multiplier and add X points to the base, depending on the trick complexity. We will cover trick scores later in this guide. When aiming for a high score, it is useful to have a target, base and multiplier depending on the score you are aiming to achieve. This allows you to safely land the combo once you have achieved your target. For example, for 50 mil, you could target just over 300,000 base and 165 multiplier. For 100 mil, you could target just over 350,000 base and 285 multiplier. And for 150 mil, you could target just over 400,000 base and 375 multiplier. These targets differ depending on the player and the map. As you play the game more, you will get a feel for your own target scores, base and multiplier. In THPS, there are penalties for repeating tricks. Using the kickflip as an example, the table shows the score added to your base after each repeat. Score 1 is 100% or 100 points. Score 2 is 75% or 75 points. Score 3 is 50% or 50 points. Score 4 is 25% or 25 points. Then for any more repeats, you get 10% of the original trick value, or 10 points in this case. At this point, we say that the trick is dead because it is no longer adding a significant number of points to our base score. Stance is important. In THPS there are two stances. You've got normal or nollie if you're riding on the nose, and you've got switch or fakie if you're riding on the tail. The switch and fakie stance gives you 20% higher score, and the stances have separate repeat counters. You should aim to use all available repeats of each trick on each stance before they are dead, particularly with special tricks. This allows you to gain the maximum amount of points out of each trick. Trick variation is also very important. Each trick has a separate repeat counter. Therefore, you should aim to use all available tricks across the core trick types. So that's specials, flip tricks, including double and triple taps, grab tricks, including double taps, grinds, including front side and back side, which also have separate repeat counters, and lip tricks. It is possible to perform 850 trick variations before using a single dead trick. Okay, let's take a look at the repetition penalty in-game. So, the first kickflip is worth 100, then 75, then 50, then 25. Then for any more repeats, it's worth 10. Now, if we switch stance, the first kickflip is worth 120, then 90, then 60, then 30, then for any more repeats it's worth 12. So remember, you should aim to use all available repeats of each trick on each stance before they are dead. The last topic we are going to cover in this section is just some other scoring mechanics. So firstly, spinning. Spinning adds 50% base per 180 degree rotation up to 900. You should aim to spin every trick as much as possible and use R1 and L1 or equivalent to spin. The left and right arrows have a short delay. Next is boneless and wally plant. You can use boneless and wally plant to gain more airtime. More airtime means more spin, which means more points. Finally, perfect landings. So if you spin a perfect 180 or 360 degrees, etc., you get what's called a perfect landing. Every perfect landing adds 1,000 points to your base score. To give you a good example, in the scoring demo at the end of this guide, I got 20 out of a possible 43 perfect landings with 386 multiplier. This is 20,000 out of a possible 43,000 additional base. So overall, I gained 7.7 million out of a possible 16.6 million on my total score. Therefore, you should aim to get as many perfect landings as possible. I haven't fully tested this, but I also believe that it improves your manual balance. Okay, let's take a look at the other scoring mechanics in game. Firstly, boneless and wally plant. Notice that using the boneless and wally plant, I get a 900 on the first air and a 1080 on the second air. Without a bonus and wally plant, I only get a 720 on the first air and a 900 on the second air. Now let's look at spinning. Notice that a kickflip backflip is worth 3,000 points. If we spin it 360, it's worth 6,000. If we spin it 540, it's worth 9,000. And finally, let's look at perfect landings. Notice that if I land a perfect 180, I get a perfect landing and a 1,000 point bonus. If I don't land a perfect 180, I miss out on the perfect landing.